The laughter from the living room was loud and warm. It was Christmas Day at my brother Scott's house, and the whole family was gathered. His house was beautiful, all granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, decorated like something from a magazine. I was in the kitchen, refilling the punch bowl, when I heard his voice. It was coming from around the corner, where the hallway led to the bedrooms. His tone was low but clear enough for me to hear. "Your Aunt Chloe is a lovely person," he was saying to my niece and nephew. "Really she is. But let's be real, kids. She is the poor aunt. She has got no real ambition. She works at a non-profit making probably nothing." He paused, and I could picture him shaking his head. "Do not settle like that. Aim for real success. Like your mom and me." The plastic cup I was holding cracked a little in my hand. I looked down and saw the thin line running through the red plastic. My face felt hot. My chest felt tight. I had spent my whole life being the supportive little sister, the one who cheered for his promotions, who babysat his kids, who always showed up. And this was how he saw me, as a cautionary tale, as someone his children should not become. I took a deep breath and forced my face into a smile. I walked back into the living room carrying that cracked cup and the full punch bowl. My smile felt glued on, tight and fake. I handed the cup to my niece, Tyler's younger sister. Scott looked over and winked at me, like we were sharing some kind of inside joke, like we were on the same team. He had absolutely no idea I had hurt him, that I had been standing right there while he reduced my entire life to a warning label. I stayed for another hour, making small talk, helping clean up, playing the role of the sweet, harmless aunt. Then I drove home to my quiet apartment, the one-bedroom place I rented on the other side of town. It was small, but it was mine. And that night, sitting on my couch with the lights off, I cried. I cried for the words he said, for the casual cruelty, for the complete lack of understanding about who I was and what I did. But underneath the tears, something else was forming. A cold, hard knot in my stomach. A quiet determination. He would regret those words. Not because I would seek revenge, but because life has a funny way of teaching lessons to people who assume they know everything. My job at the Willow Creek Community Foundation was my sanctuary. It was the place where I felt valued, where my work mattered. My office was small, tucked in the back of the old renovated house that served as our headquarters. But it was mine. I had a desk, a window overlooking the garden, and walls covered with thank you letters from people we had helped. I managed files. I organized meetings. I coordinated grants. To Scott, this was clerical work. Administrative. The kind of job that did not require ambition or talent. But he had no idea what I actually did. He had never asked. Had never cared enough to understand. My boss, Evelyn, was a woman in her 60s who had run the foundation for 20 years. She trusted me completely. And over the past year, she had been giving me more and more responsibility. Important responsibility. The kind that actually changed lives. But I had never told Scott about any of it. Why would I? He had already decided who I was. And I had learned a long time ago that you could not convince people to see you differently. You just had to let them be wrong and move on with your life. What Scott definitely did not know was my newest responsibility. The one Evelyn had given me 6 months ago. I was now the program director for the Future Leaders Scholarship Fund. It was a huge endowment, over $3 million, that provided full-ride scholarships to deserving high school seniors in our region. The application process was completely anonymous. We stripped all identifying information from the applications before they went to the review committee. I designed the forms. I organized the committee. I managed the timeline. And I was the final checkpoint for every single award. It was the most important work I had ever done. These scholarships literally changed lives. They sent kids to college who could never have afforded it otherwise. They opened doors. They created futures. And I took my role incredibly seriously. The rules were strict. No late materials. No exceptions. No favoritism. The integrity of the process was everything. Because if we could not be fair to every single applicant, then the whole thing was meaningless. This scholarship program was my pride, my purpose, and I guarded it fiercely. Scott had no idea any of this existed. To him, I was just filing papers and answering phones. At family brunches and holiday dinners, Scott talked endlessly about his sales career, his quotas, his bonuses, his new car, his upcoming vacation. He would ask me about work with that kind, condescending smile that was not kind at all. "How is the nonprofit world treating you?" he would say, like it was a cute hobby, like I was volunteering at a pet shelter. "It is good," I would reply. "Really rewarding." He would nod the way you nod at a child who is excited about a finger painting. "That is great, Chloe. Really great. As long as you are happy." The subtext was always there. As long as you are happy being poor. As long as you are happy failing. I stopped trying to explain my work to him years ago. I just smiled and let him talk. I became a ghost in my own family. Present but invisible. There but not really seen. It was easier that way. Easier than constantly defending my choices. Easier than trying to make him understand that success looked different to different people. That money was not the only measure of a life well lived. So I stayed quiet. And I waited. For what, I did not know. But I waited. In early January, we opened the scholarship application window. It was always a busy time. Hundreds of emails flooded our online portal. High school seniors from all over the region submitting their hopes and dreams in the form of essays, transcripts, and recommendation letters. I worked late nights at the office, logging every application, checking that all materials were complete, ensuring the system worked perfectly. The deadline was strict. January 31st at 11:59 p.m. No exceptions. We made that clear on every piece of communication. On the website. In the application instructions. In the automated confirmation emails. If materials were incomplete by the deadline, the application was disqualified. It was harsh, maybe, but it was fair. Because fairness meant treating everyone exactly the same. No special circumstances. No sob stories. No exceptions. The rules protected the integrity of the entire program. And I was the guardian of those rules. My job was to make sure every applicant had an equal shot. That meant holding the line. No matter what. No matter who. In mid-January, I was creating the anonymous review packets. This was the process where I removed all identifying information from the applications. Names, addresses, school names, anything that could create bias. The review committee would see only the essay, the transcript, and the letters of recommendation. They would judge each application on merit alone. But before I anonymized them, I saw the raw data. I had to. That was part of my job. I was scrolling through the list, checking for completeness, when a name jumped out at me. Applicant number 347. Tyler Mitchell. My heart skipped a beat. Mitchell was not an uncommon last name. But Tyler was my nephew. Scott's eldest son. I clicked into the application and my stomach dropped. It was him. The address was Scott's address. The parent information was Scott and his wife. My nephew had applied for our scholarship. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. His essay was about wanting to study environmental science. About caring for the planet. It was well written. Thoughtful. Genuine. It was actually really good. This was going to be complicated. I immediately walked to Evelyn's office. She was at her desk, reviewing grant proposals. I knocked on her open door. Evelyn, we have a situation, I said. She looked up, concern crossing her face. I explained that my nephew had applied for the scholarship, that I had just discovered it while preparing the review packets. Evelyn nodded slowly, thinking. You are the director, Chloe, she said finally. You know the protocol for conflicts of interest. I did know. The protocol was clear and strict. I would handle all the administrative work as usual, but I would have zero involvement in the evaluation or selection process. I would not be in the room when his application was discussed. I would not have any input on whether he advanced or not. I was a firewall. My job was to ensure the rules were followed. Nothing more. I will recuse myself completely from the evaluation, I said. Evelyn smiled. Good. That is exactly right. You run a clean process and you have nothing to worry about. I went back to my office feeling both relieved and anxious. This was going to be a test of my integrity, of my professionalism, of everything I believed about fairness. A week before the deadline, I ran my standard compliance check. I went through every application in the system, making sure all required materials had been submitted. Essay, transcript, 2 teacher recommendation letters, and 1 community leader reference. Those were the requirements. Non-negotiable. Tyler's file was missing one of the teacher recommendation letters. It showed as pending, not submitted. My stomach clenched. This was the rule I was sworn to uphold. No exceptions. No matter who the applicant was. I checked the submission log. The teacher had been sent the link on January 5th. They had not responded. I felt a chill run through me. My nephew's application was incomplete. Unless that letter came in before the deadline, he would be automatically disqualified. I could not call him, could not warn him, could not give him special treatment. That would violate everything the program stood for. So I did what I did for every incomplete application. I sent the standard automated reminder email to the contact address on file. Your application is currently incomplete. Please ensure all materials are submitted by January 31st at 11:59 p.m. That was it. That was all I could do. And it felt both right and terrible at the same time. The next morning, an email appeared in the general scholarship inbox. The one that went to our main contact address, not directly to me. The subject line was all caps. Urgent. Regarding Mitchell application. My heart started pounding even before I opened it. The email was from Scott, from his work email address. His tone was demanding. Entitled, "To whom it may concern," it started. My son Tyler Mitchell has submitted an application for your scholarship. I have just learned that one of his teachers has been delayed in submitting a recommendation letter due to a family emergency. I am reaching out to request an extension or a pass on this requirement, given the circumstances. My son is an exceptional student with a 4.2 GPA and extensive community service. One late letter should not derail his chances. I expect your prompt assistance with this matter and appreciate your understanding. Sincerely, Scott Mitchell. I read the email 3 times. He had no idea he was writing to me. He thought he was writing to some faceless bureaucrat at the foundation. Someone he could intimidate or charm into bending the rules. The power in that moment was staggering. And so quiet. So absolutely quiet. I sat at my desk, staring at that email. The poor aunt was sitting in her little nonprofit office, reading her successful brother beg for help. Beg the system he had no respect for to save his son's application. And he had no idea that I was the one reading his words. No idea that I held this power. I could have ignored the rules. Could have made an exception. Could have quietly let the late letter slide. But that was not who I was. That was not what this program was. If I bent the rules for Tyler, I would be proving Scott right. I would be acting out of emotion instead of principle. I would be letting nepotism corrupt the one thing I was supposed to protect. So I did what I would do for anyone. I drafted a response. Professional. Firm. Fair. Dear Mr. Mitchell, thank you for your inquiry. The Future Leaders Scholarship has strict deadlines to ensure fairness to all applicants. All materials, including recommendation letters, must be submitted by January 31st at 11:59 p.m. We cannot grant extensions or exceptions, as doing so would be unfair to the other applicants who met the requirements. We wish your son the best of luck. Sincerely, Chloe Mitchell, Program Director, Future Leaders Scholarship Fund. I signed my full name, my title, and I hit send. That night, my phone rang. Scott's name appeared on the screen. I almost did not answer. But I knew I had to. Hello, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Chloe, he practically yelled. You are not going to believe this. Some petty little bureaucrat at your foundation just tanked Tyler's scholarship chance. His voice was furious. Entitled. Outraged. They will not give him an extension for one late letter. Can you believe that? After everything we have done, all the taxes we pay, they are going to be that rigid. I took a deep breath. Scott, the rules are very strict. They have to be. It is about fairness. He scoffed. Fairness? Tyler is a straight-A student. He deserves this more than half the kids who will probably get it. This is bureaucracy at its worst. He paused. Can you talk to them? Pull some strings? You work there. Surely you have some pull. I closed my eyes. The person you are talking about is me, Scott. I am the director of the scholarship program. I sent you that email. Dead silence. Then, slowly, you are in charge of this? His voice had changed. Uncertain now. Yes, I said simply. And the answer is still no. The rules are the rules. He called me useless. He said I could have helped but chose not to. He said family should help family. Then he hung up. I sat on my couch, holding my phone, and felt nothing but calm. The next week, the review committee met. It was made up of 5 people. 2 retired teachers. A local business owner. A college admissions counselor. And a community leader. I was not in the room. I sat in my office, paperwork spread in front of me, listening to the murmur of voices through the wall. I knew what was happening. They were going through the applications, judging them on merit. Tyler's application, incomplete, would be set aside in the first round. There would be no discussion, no debate. It was missing a required component. That was the end of it. The committee members never saw his name anyway. Everything was anonymized. They just saw applicant number 347. A strong essay. Good grades. Excellent community service. But an incomplete file. Disqualified. Simple as that. After 3 hours, the committee finished. They had their list of semi-finalists. 50 applications that would move forward to the next round. I printed the list from the system. Tyler's applicant number was not on it. The process was clean, fair, finished. And I had done my job perfectly. Evelyn came out of the conference room, smiling. You ran a flawless process, Chloe. This is excellent work. Her praise meant everything. More than Scott's approval ever had. Over the next 2 weeks, the committee narrowed the 50 semi-finalists down to 20 finalists. I facilitated every meeting but never participated in the discussions. I scheduled interviews. I coordinated with families. I did my job. By mid-February, we had our 20 scholarship winners. 20 amazing kids who would get full rides to college. Kids who would have opportunities they never dreamed possible. I felt proud. Genuinely proud of the work we had done. Tyler's name was not on the final list. Not because of anything personal. Not because of anything vindictive. But because he did not follow the rules. Because his teacher did not submit the letter on time. Because exceptions could not be made. Not even for my nephew. Not even when it would have been easier. We scheduled the notification emails for February 15th. A fresh start for the winners. A hard lesson for everyone else. I knew what was coming. I knew how Scott would react. And I braced myself for it. But I also knew I had done the right thing. The only thing. And that knowledge was like armor. On February 14th, the day before notifications went out, Scott showed up at my apartment. I had not heard from him since our phone call weeks ago. When I opened the door, he looked tired. Defeated. Smaller somehow. "Chloe, please," he said, not even saying hello. "Can we talk?" I let him in. We sat on my couch, the same one where I had cried on Christmas night. "You have to help," he said, his voice pleading now instead of demanding. "This scholarship is everything for Tyler. It is his top choice school. We cannot afford it without this. Can you not just talk to someone? Pull strings? Anything?" For the first time in our relationship, he was asking me for help. Not telling me what to do. Not dismissing me. Actually asking. And it broke my heart. "Scott," I said gently, "I have spoken to the person in charge. That person is me. And the decision is final." He stared at me. "You are telling me you are just going to let this happen? You are going to let your nephew lose this opportunity?" I looked at him steadily. "I am telling you that the rules applied to Tyler the same way they applied to every other applicant. That is what fairness means." He left without another word. I watched him drive away and felt sad. But I did not feel guilty. There is a difference. On February 15th at 9 a.m., I pressed the send button. The system released all the notification emails at once. 20 congratulatory letters to the winners. 430 rejection letters to everyone else. The emails went out perfectly. The system worked exactly as designed. Within minutes, my phone started ringing. It was my sister-in-law, Tyler's mother. She was crying. "Chloe, Tyler did not get it. He did not get the scholarship." Her voice was broken. Devastated. "I am so sorry," I said, and I meant it. I was sorry. Sorry that Tyler had lost this opportunity. Sorry that his teacher had not come through. Sorry that life was not always fair even when you tried your best. "His father said you could have helped," she said quietly. "Is that true?" I took a breath. I followed the same rules for Tyler that I followed for every other applicant. That is my job. That is what integrity means. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I understand," and hung up. I sat in my quiet office and felt the weight of it all. But I also felt clean. Clear. I had done what was right. And that had to be enough. The family group chat exploded that day. Messages flying back and forth. Scott was angry. Ranting about the heartless foundation and their bureaucratic nonsense. He said they probably gave the scholarships to less deserving kids. He said the whole process was corrupt. And then he said, "Chloe works there, and she could not even get us a straight answer. Shows how little influence she actually has." I watched the messages pop up on my phone screen, one after another. My parents chimed in, trying to calm everyone down. My other siblings stayed quiet. And I did not respond. I just watched. Because what could I say? That I was the one who made the decision? That I had the power he claimed I did not have? That would just make it worse. So I stayed silent. And I let him believe what he wanted to believe. That I was powerless. That I was useless. That I was the poor aunt with no real influence. It was easier that way. For everyone. A week later, Evelyn called me into her office. Her expression was serious. "Chloe, we have received a formal complaint," she said. Scott Mitchell is alleging that the scholarship process was unfair. He is demanding a review of the decision and an explanation for why his son was not selected. My heart sank. He wants a meeting. He wants to present his case to someone in authority. She looked at me carefully. Given your relationship, I think we should handle this together. You and me. We will walk him through the process. Show him the rules. Make it clear that everything was done properly. I nodded slowly. When? She checked her calendar. How about January 28th? That gives him time to prepare whatever he wants to say. And it gives us time to pull all the documentation. I agreed. She drafted an email to Scott, inviting him to the meeting. She copied me on it. The email signature was clear. From Evelyn Wright, Executive Director. And Chloe Mitchell, Program Director. I wondered if he would even notice my title. If he would realize what it meant. Or if he would just show up ready to fight, assuming I was there to take notes. The days leading up to the meeting were tense. I prepared everything. I pulled Tyler's file. I documented the timeline. The missing letter. The automated reminders. The deadline. Scott's email requesting an exception. My response. The committee process. Everything was organized in a neat folder, ready to present. The truth in black and white. On the morning of the 28th, I put on my best blazer. Navy blue, professional, the one I wore when I needed to feel confident. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a director. Like someone in charge. Like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. I drove to the office and met Evelyn in the hallway. Ready? She asked. I nodded. We walked together to our small conference room. Scott was already there, pacing. He was wearing a suit, like he was going to a business meeting. Ready to negotiate. Ready to win. He looked at Evelyn and started to speak. But he did not look at me. He thought I was just there as support. As the lowly staff member who would take notes while the real conversation happened. He had no idea what was coming. Evelyn began in her calm, measured way. Mr. Mitchell, thank you for coming. I am Evelyn Wright, Executive Director of the Willow Creek Community Foundation. She gestured to me. And this is Chloe Mitchell, the Director of the Future Leaders Scholarship Fund. She oversees the entire program, including all policies and procedures. Scott's head snapped toward me. His eyes went wide. He looked at the nameplate on the table in front of me. Chloe Mitchell, Program Director. He looked back at my face. Really seeing me for maybe the first time in years. You are the director, he said slowly. Yes, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I have been for the past 8 months. He sat down heavily in his chair. Evelyn continued, laying out the process. The application requirements. The deadline. The missing recommendation letter. The automated reminders sent to Tyler. The email Scott had sent requesting an exception. My response. She was clinical. Factual. Unemotional. These were just the facts. Scott was silent, staring at the table. Then Evelyn showed him the committee process. How applications were anonymized. How the review worked. How incomplete applications were disqualified in the first round. How Tyler's application never even made it to discussion because it was missing a required component. Everything was documented. Everything was clear. There was no room for argument. No gray area. Just rules that had been applied fairly to everyone. Finally, Evelyn finished. She looked at Scott. Do you have any questions about the process? He did not speak for a long moment. Then he looked at me. You knew, he said quietly. You knew Tyler applied and you did nothing to help him. I met his eyes. I did exactly what I would do for any other applicant. I sent the standard reminders. I enforced the standard rules. I treated him fairly. My voice was calm but firm. The rules exist to protect every single applicant, Scott. Making an exception for Tyler would have been unfair to the 430 other students who followed the requirements. It would have compromised the integrity of the entire program. I paused. You asked me to break the rules. I refused. That is not being unhelpful. That is being professional. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He had nothing to say. No argument. No justification. Because the truth was right there in front of him. Documented. Undeniable. Evelyn stood up. If there is nothing else, Mr. Mitchell, I think we are done here. The decision is final. Scott stood slowly. He looked at me one more time. I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Not anger. Not contempt. Something like shame. He walked out without another word. The door closed behind him. Evelyn turned to me. Well done, Chloe. You handled that perfectly. I nodded, but I felt hollow. Victory did not feel the way I thought it would. The week after the meeting was quiet. No calls from Scott. No messages in the family group chat. Just silence. I threw myself into work. We were in the phase where we helped the scholarship winners complete their college applications, connected them with mentors, prepared them for their futures. It was my favorite part of the process. Seeing these kids light up with hope. On March 5th, my phone rang. It was Tyler. Aunt Chloe. His voice was uncertain. I just wanted to call and say I am sorry. I was surprised. Sorry for what, Tyler? He took a breath. Dad told me what happened. About the meeting. About how you were actually the director and I did not know. About how I missed the deadline and he tried to get you to break the rules. He paused. I should have been more on top of it. I should have made sure my teacher sent the letter in time. It was not your fault. And it was not fair of Dad to put you in that position. My eyes filled with tears. Tyler, your application was really good. Your essay was beautiful. I am proud of you for trying. He was quiet for a moment. Can I apply again next year? I smiled. Absolutely. The program runs every year. And I will be here, making sure the process is fair for everyone. We talked for a few more minutes, and when we hung up, I felt lighter. Tyler understood. That was enough. A few days later, my mother called. Chloe, honey, your brother told me what happened. About the scholarship. I braced myself for criticism. For her to tell me I should have helped. But instead, she said, I am proud of you. I was shocked. You are. She sighed. I love your brother. But he has always assumed the world should bend for him. That rules do not apply. You did the right thing. The hard thing. That takes strength. Her words broke something open in me. Thank you, Mom, I whispered. I just wish he understood. She was quiet for a moment. Maybe he does now. Maybe that is the lesson he needed to learn. That you are not the poor aunt. You are the professional. The one with integrity. The one who does the hard work nobody sees. And that matters, Chloe. That matters more than money or titles or any of the things Scott values. We talked for another hour. Really talked. And when we hung up, I felt seen. Finally, truly seen. March turned into April. The scholarship winners were preparing for college. Tyler was applying to other schools, looking for financial aid options. And I was back to my regular work. Organizing grants. Helping families. Managing programs. One afternoon, Evelyn called me into her office. Chloe, the board has decided to expand the scholarship program. We are adding another $1 million to the endowment. And we want to create an official title for you. Associate Director of Programs. It comes with a significant raise. I stared at her. Are you serious? She smiled. You have proven yourself over and over. The scholarship program you built is the crown jewel of this foundation. You deserve recognition for that. I went back to my office and sat at my desk. I looked at the thank you letters on my wall. The photos of scholarship winners. The evidence of lives I had helped change. This was success. Not the loud, flashy kind that Scott valued, but the quiet, meaningful kind. The kind that mattered. The kind that lasted. I called my mom that night and told her. She cried. Happy tears. Proud tears. And I realized something profound. I had spent years letting Scott define success for me, letting his judgment make me feel small. But I was not small. I was strong. I was capable. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And that was enough. More than enough. On a warm day in early May, I walked into my office and looked around. At my desk, my window, my space. The nameplate on my door now read Chloe Mitchell, Associate Director of Programs. I sat down and opened my email. There was a message from one of the scholarship winners. She had gotten into her dream school. She was going to be the first in her family to go to college. And she wanted to thank me. Because of you, she wrote, I have a future I never thought possible. Thank you for believing in fairness. Thank you for following the rules. Thank you for giving kids like me a real chance. I read it 3 times. And I realized this was what Scott would never understand. That success was not about money or status or impressive job titles. It was about impact, about integrity, about doing good work that mattered. I was not the poor aunt. I never had been. I was the aunt who changed lives, who held the line, who showed up every day and did the hard, quiet work that made a difference. The new year had truly begun. And I was exactly who I was supposed to be. Strong, proud, successful on my own terms. And finally, wonderfully free from the need for anyone's approval but my own.